Hey, welcome to episode 6 of the Remote Play Gaming Podcast. I'm Mark, and this is Evan. We're your co-hosts on the show. What's going on, Evan? How are you today?
Doing well, Mark. How are you, man?
Yeah, not bad. Looking forward to talking about some of the stuff that's been going on in gaming. We've got a lot of cool topics today for you on our agenda. So we're going to talk about our Payday 3 impressions and what's going on with that game. Jim Ryan, head of PlayStation, is stepping down very soon to retire, and we're going to see what that means for PlayStation and us gamers and just the future of the industry. And we're going to check out the Xbox leaks, big ones, like big time leaks from the FTC trial. And then we're going to dive into the future of the gaming industry and physical games maybe going away and a digital only future. So, first up, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you want to hear more of this content. And I'll start us off with the question of the day. Evan, the question of the day for you and for our viewers is you only have $100 for the next 2 years to buy games. Are you hopping in your car, driving to Target, Walmart, Best Buy, EB Games, and buying some games? Or are you waiting for the next Steam sale, eShop sale, whatever it may be?
Ooh. So am I thinking about more along the lines of the, like, conceptually, like not necessarily what games I'm thinking about, but like, all right, here's the option. You can buy. You have $100 to spend on games, right?
Yep, $100
And
spent
so
on
how
games.
you spend?
You got it.
Okay.
Okay. Yep, take a thought about that, and we're going to jump through our intro. And hey, we're back. All right, Evan, you've had a second to think about what's going on. This question of the day, you've got the $100 for the next 2 years. How are you spending this money on games?
So I'm guessing my answer can't be a little column A, little column B, right?
Yeah,
Like
nope.
I have one way or the other. So my thought is like, okay, like there's Steam sales, so I'm like, but there's also Black Friday, right? Black Friday has
Oh,
great deals
okay.
on games and all
Yeah.
this stuff. But like, here's the thing, like Black Friday is once a year, and maybe you get a Prime game deal. But like, I mean, these days it just feels like the the deals in gaming are typically better overall in digital.
Hmm.
And and I don't do a whole, like as far as like PC gaming and stuff like that, I have my Steam Deck, but like I think about like, the Nintendo, the Xbox. So is this digital purchases? Because I'm buying Nintendo games, right? And I
Hmm.
can't buy
Hmm.
Nintendo games on Steam.
Yeah, I mean, if there's an eShop sale, you can do that.
Okay. So this is, okay. I gotta. I don't like this answer. You can see I have a bunch of games in the back of my screen here, unless you're on audio.
It's a lot of digital
But
games there in the background. No, just kidding.
yeah, right. But yeah, I have to. I think I have to go with digital purchases, which hurts me because we'll get into it. But I love my physical collection of really Nintendo games. I have some that are not Nintendo, but you just. I think I have to go. I think I have to go digital, and also because I think about a lot about indies, right?
Right.
And a lot of times you're not getting indies and physical, or you're paying astronomical costs to like limited run, or like double the cost or whatever, and you never know when you're gonna get the limited run game. So like I play too many indies to just say that I could only go physical.
$100
So
bucks
I
gets
gotta.
a lot of indies, man. A lot of small games for $100.
It really does, especially on those Steam sales, on those big eShop sales, on those big Xbox sales or whatever. Like you get. I got Inside and Limbo for $2 a piece. I think What Remains of Edith Finch for $1.99, right? Like, so it's just like I get $52 games.
Yeah, and if you're a patient gamer, right? If you're on Reddit and /r/patient gamers, you're getting a buttload of games there for $100 if you're getting last year's games or the year before.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think the spirit of oh man. Yeah. I don't like that my answer is digital.
All right, so that's everybody heard it up front in the episode. May or may not have been a setup, but he's going digital. This will matter later in the episode. This will matter. All right, man. So first up, We've got on the screen, we're going to talk about Payday 3 and our impressions with this game. A little bit of a rocky launch for anybody that needs a background on this game. It's a bank robbing game where you can play with up to 4 players, or you can join bots, online people, your friends, whatever the case. And you set up these bank heists. You can either go loud and just be crazy, or you can try and sneak around. In the previous game, sneaking around was not always the best way. It wasn't really implemented well. You usually ended up going loud. But now they've got the number 3 title out. Everybody's really excited for this. It's on Game Pass, so there's a lot of access to this. And the launch. What do you want to tell us about the launch of the game, Evan?
Yeah, failure to launch, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we got to play. We played with our buddy. We got it all lined up, and but yeah, it seems like a lot of people, even trying to play by yourself, you still have with bots. You have to go through the matchmaking online. There's no, and the servers were failing, and so
Right.
it really proposes this big like concern with online only, not having offline gaming, especially for single player only, and even if you're trying to party up, and we had 3 of us in a bot, right, like, and people were having issues with that. We fortunately hit it at a time where we were not having issues, but people were having issues all launch weekend, and at a time like for the game itself, at a time where like just banger after banger is coming out. Like by the time they fix this, they only have a certain amount of time to fix this, because other people are playing Starfield, people are playing Cyberpunk, people are playing Spider-Man 2's coming. Like people are playing other games. There's other games to be playing.
Coming too.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good point. Is kind of came in that it's got almost the perfect gap opportunity to try and get some audience in this stacked year, and they're kind of messing that up, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I was trying to play at another time when you weren't online, and I just kept getting stuck in the lobby, and it's stupid. The stupid, like, you go to each mission and it's like the lady or the person, guy, depending on the mission, runs you down on what's going on. And the very first one you have to do is like da 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 da, robbing a bank. Da, da, there's no rest for the wicked, and this thing would just play over and over because you would fail to matchmake, and oh my god, it was driving me insane.
Oh no. Yeah.
So what are your
So it
thoughts
launched
about
pretty
the?
terribly.
Yeah, what are your thoughts about the game then? Actually, once we actually got
Yeah.
to play.
Sure. Honestly, I had a blast. Like I don't play a whole lot of games with like actually with friends anymore. Like I usually we'll hop on Discord or whatever and play single player games like Starfield or something while we're in chat, or Zelda or whatever it is. But yeah, so hopping in some PvE, like it reminded me of how much I love like playing with friends and just like going and doing whatever, right? Like we did a lot of this with Destiny back in the day, and and it's been a while since I've done a lot of this. I was like, oh yeah, this is so good. So that experience by itself is an experience that I've missed, and like I was just happy to jump back into. The game was fun. Like it took a few minutes to start out, like make sure you don't put your mask on in the street. Because I might have done that, and you guys were like, why is everybody getting all like mad and angry right now? Like what's going on?
Yeah.
What are these exclamation points? And I was just like, do we not put our mask on, guys? And but no, the learning pains were fun and short, right? Like
Yeah.
the heists were fun. There's not a whole lot, I guess, of content, but it's like there's like the 4 maps that we played, or the 4 heists that we played. I felt like they were all pretty different, and and different sizes, and different. Like that club was sick. It was really long. We played like one that was like 10 minutes, and then we played the nightclub, which was like 45 minutes.
Yeah, it was nuts.
But yeah, what were you thinking about it?
I was thinking how much I wanted to kick your ass after you put that mask on. We're trying to case the joint. We just start the map. We're trying to case the joint. And this is like the 4th time we played the map. So pretty familiar that we just walk up and nothing should happen. But then everybody's alerted to us. We're like, what's going on? What's going on? We see Evan with his damn mask on his face.
Going in hot and ready, baby.
and then how about later we almost stealth completed a mission, and then what happened? We had a hostage outside or something, and somebody saw him through the window.
Oh yeah. Yeah, not as bad as you walking into the jewelry store, the private event, and
Yeah, that was bad. I
getting
watched.
arrested.
Yeah, so you can get arrested, and yeah, the game's a lot of fun when it works. And there's some things that are better or worse than Payday 2, in my opinion. I played a lot of that. Like you said, there's only 8 maps, and I think 8 in this to launch. Payday 2 launched with more, and of course had a ton of DLC, as everyone knows. They're on that DLC gravy train, but this failure to launch is pretty embarrassing for them. They said during the beta, like there was literally video footage of the main developer studio head saying like the servers will not fail. The servers will not fail because they were giving them feedback like, hey, there's issues, right?
Right.
And then here they go, they fail, and yeah. Luckily, we didn't pay for it. We played it on Game Pass, but for people that were looking forward to this and paid, you know, X amount of dollars, I don't know what the full price was. I think there was like a, Crime Boss edition or whatever for like $80 or something. That's disappointing when you get on. You can't even play by yourself. You cannot even play the game by yourself. You know what I mean?
Literally just can't play the game.
Yeah. So now there's rumors that they're gonna bring the single player mode back in, and supposedly people were doing data mining and found a scrapped offline mode. So the question is, what happened? Did the publisher come in and say no, you're doing online only to force people to do XYZ, microtransactions, whatever? So this is a almost an omen, if you will, of the industry of like maybe what's to come, and we'll touch on that in the later topic. But overall, I had fun with the game. I'm definitely looking to hop back on and play some more.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump over. Let's jump over to our next one. So now we've got the head of PlayStation, Jim Ryan, is announced his retirement, I think in upcoming spring, like March timeframe. And so, Evan, I just want to get your thoughts on this. Like, what does this mean for PlayStation? Was this a good retirement, bad retirement? Should PlayStation fans be worried, excited? Are they set up well with kind of some of the stuff he's been doing over the past few years? What do you think?
Yeah, it sounds like, there's a lot of PlayStation fans that are cheering for Ryan's, his departure. And it seems like it's because he's this like very businessman, like, that he doesn't really play video games. I mean, everybody, maybe not everybody, but if you haven't seen Jim,
right?
Right. Yeah. And if you haven't seen the picture of Jim Ryan holding a PlayStation controller, like that's kind of, I think all you really need to see to know that like he's not a gamer. And like I think gamers just like don't like that. Like Phil Spencer is at least he sells the gamer, right? Like, and you see he's got like a 990 gamer score on Vampire Survivors and stuff. Like he plays.
He's
plays
playing
video
games,
games,
right? Yeah.
Right. Or somebody's playing him for him. I don't know. But
could you imagine that you're the intern, like, your assignment today, you got to play Vampire Survivors. Oh, Titanfall 2 is back online. You need to play that. And
yeah, so I need you to play these Game Pass games, make it look like I am playing, yeah. So, but at least, he puts on that, puts that on facade or whatever it is. But, there's no, Jim Ryan's kind of put his foot in his mouth a few times, over the years. And so I think there's a little bit of that, right? Like he doesn't relate to the gamers. Gamers don't relate to Jim Ryan. I mean, he's, PlayStation's thriving right now, right? Like, and they have been under Jim Ryan. I mean, Sean Layden set things up, and I think maybe that is. I don't really know how to feel about it. There's things I don't like about PlayStation, but Jim Ryan started bringing their PlayStation games to PC, and I applaud that, right? Like, and he has. I mean, he's done great things, and there is a concern with the games as a service, like shift that he's had for PlayStation, right? And all these, we saw Jason Schreier for Bloomberg, put out, tweet or post or whatever that, or
an article, yeah,
an article on how a lot of these studios at PlayStation Studios are having an awkward shift and not really comfortable with the change to games of service. I mean, PlayStation's bread and butter has been these third-party cinematic single-player adventure games that are, boom, 20 to 40-hour story and done. Games of service is like, wait, that's years and years and years. Like it's complete change of pace in direction of like how you're developing a game and what you're doing. It's like the only thing that's familiar with these studios is the IP itself, right?
Yeah, that's a little disheartening, isn't it? Like I know that they're doing so well, and it feels like they're trying to catch a wave that's going to be gone by the time
Yeah.
they catch it, right? Or it's just not applicable to everybody. It's not applicable to all their studios. This square peg round hole type of deal. When you're telling Naughty Dog, some of the most masterful storytellers ever with The Last of Us Part 1 and 2 and Uncharted, and you're saying, okay, now I need you to make games you need to do a multiplayer thing. You need to do games as a service. Get away from your bread and butter and do this, because that's what we're all doing now. And that's got to be a struggle, I think. And that could be to the detriment of the studios and ultimately to the players. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the mentality is that, yeah, well, if we do, a dozen of these, then and 11 of them fail, that one that doesn't is going to make up for all of it.
Dollar bills.
Yeah, it just sucks that that's where we are, because it's just like usually those games that hit first off are like they're funded, all that money's coming from like whales. It's coming from the top 1% of the players. So most majority of players, right? As far as players by quantity, that's not the direction that they want to go. But when you look at it in the players by money spent, right? Mm-hmm. Because you have so many of these high spending players that are at the top, or 1% of these high spending players, right? If they spend $1,000, 1% of these players spend, $1,000 on these games, mm-hmm. then it's funding it way more than, just paying that $60, $70, for the disc, for the base game, and not having that service model. Right.
Yeah. And it makes it hard to vote with your wallet, right? Like, I'm a big proponent of vote for your wallet. And sometimes I do spend, sometimes I don't, but I think vote for your wallet's good. But when you put it like that, does voting with your wallet really matter? If you already have the numbers on your side, people-wise, the numbers are on your side, right? But the dollar-wise, it doesn't matter if 1%, 2% of the player base are spending all the money anyway.
Yeah, you can only spend 100% less than $70, but you can spend infinitely more than $70, right? So it's like when... Great point. Yeah. So, and it just, like I said, it sucks. And it's just like to see that when it's like, you like said, you see that out there where it's like, oh, well, speak with your wallet. And it's just like, I think gamers are, right. And I think most gamers are, and maybe not like, but I would be curious to see that if some kind of data model on that or whatever, just get some kind of information to like, see how many people are actually not funding this, but because it just takes such a small few to spend tons of money on it to make it successful. And then, players like things like, just player activity, right? If you have, millions of players playing it and not spending any money on it, and they're just like playing it because it's the thing and that's what people are playing. And then even out of those players, like say Fortnite, right? I don't know how many people spend any money on Fortnite, but it doesn't take too many people to get them V-Bucks and, to get thousands of dollars in V-Bucks for it to be the killer.
Yeah. Yeah, it is definitely concerning if you're a PlayStation fan, because this is either going to be a huge hit or a huge miss. And it also depends on your play style, right? Like, I like both games. Don't get me wrong, I played hundreds of hours of Destiny. I played a lot of Destiny 2 before I put it down and was done with the abuse that game gave out to its players. But I also like stuff like Uncharted and Horizon and stuff like that. So it just really depends on what's going to happen, what's coming down the pipe. And there was that rumor, I don't know if it was confirmed, but that basically they got Bungie, brought them in-house, and they said, all right, look at every studio that we have, look at their projects, and give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down on it, because you are the games as a service masters, right?
Right.
Like dollar for dollar, gameplay-wise, like you guys have the formula that you've perfected. So what do you think of all these? And I think part of the rumor was that Naughty Dog's Last of Us thing got the thumbs down, like go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, the factions.
Yeah. So...
Yeah.
Could that have been a good game? Could it have been a good multiplayer game or a good multiplayer add-on? Maybe, but it's probably dead in the water now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, people liked the first Last of Us multiplayer, right? Like but it wasn't some, killer revenue maker, but it was like a cool online multiplayer mode. I never played it, but like I know that it was pretty well received, and people that did play it enjoyed it. And it's like, maybe this was just an expansion on that or an evolution of that, and it's just like, but if Bungie's like, no, this is what makes this doesn't make the money, this doesn't have lasting, right? Like it's not something that you can do for the next 7 years. People aren't gonna play this for 7 years. They'll play it for the next year, and then when Call of Duty comes out, they're just gonna jump back to that or whatever, and and you know, you get, I think back to like the, you know, these studios being forced into this, right? Like something that's very uncomfortable for them, right?
Mhm.
Like how many devs are working out there for like Naughty Dog? They're just like, dude, I just want to work on what, like I came to Naughty Dog because I loved, you know, like the Uncharted, the Last of Us, right? I wanted to be a part of this, like this story, like the, you know, this excellent writing, these incredible narratives, games, and now I'm just being forced to do this like this like money grabbing, like, you know, trying to force feed like players playing together and engaging and making sure that they do stuff that, I don't know, like it's like, and then you're like, all right, I'm doing this, and you kind of like finally get like, all right, this is how we're gonna do it. I got an idea, and then you just have somebody come, nope,
Yeah.
and you're like I don't even want to do this, and like and it's failing, and I'm just being told no, like no, you know, like of course I'm being told this is bad. This is because I'm doing work I don't want to do, you know, like, I mean,
Yeah.
imagine going to work every day and just having to work on something you don't enjoy. And then the people that are telling you that you have to do it, you're like, yeah, that's not good enough. You're like, well, of course it's not. Of
Yeah.
course it's not.
Yeah, it's like to use like a football or a sports analogy. It's like you're a running back and you go to be on the team, but the coach changes, and all of a sudden he's not running the ball anymore. He's running a spread offense and just throwing the ball all the time. And you're like, oh, okay. Guess
You're
I'm
not
doing
catching the
it.
ball well enough. It's like, well, it's because I take handoffs.
Yeah, yeah. I run the ball. Like you change the whole direction of what we're doing here. Like, yeah, we're still playing football. We're still making games. You know, we're still the Eagles, the Browns, whoever's, but now we're doing it totally differently, right? So I don't know. And to give Jim Ryan credit, like you've got to give him credit for the good things that have happened under his purview as well as maybe the missteps, right? Like even on the screen now, you can see The Last of Us, God of War Ragnarok, Dreams, for
Yeah.
Horizon, Ratchet and Clank, bringing the games to the PC, as you said. Like there's a lot of good things that have happened at PlayStation, and they have an excellent console right now, I think. But there's also some missteps, and you think about the games as a service we talked about last week. We talked about the PS Plus subscription price increases with no added games. Like the value, whoa, I hit my mic there, sorry. The value is not in balance, I think, with those big 30+ % price increases. And then the PlayStation Portal handheld, that's kind of yet to be seen if that's going to be a smart decision or not. And then the PSVR, which is kind of struggling. Do you have any thoughts on any of those other things I just mentioned?
Yeah, it seems like they're just kind of seeing like, you know, like, oh, you know, this Switch worked, so let's do something like that. Oh, you
Yeah.
know, like they're just trying to feel out like all these, I don't know. It doesn't feel like they're leading the charge so much as they're chasing trends, and I mean, really, PlayStation hasn't been a trend chaser, and as a platform holder, I feel like you can't be. You know, you got to drive the industry, and and it feels like they're, I don't know, it just feels like they're just chasing trends. And
Yeah, it feels like they're playing it safe in a way, like covering all their bases. Like they got a
yeah,
great console. All right, let's cover all our bases. We have a subscription service. We have a handheld offering. We've got a VR offering. Like, okay, let's go to the next step here. Like, really show us what you're made of, and throw something incredible at us, like you have before.
right. And it's one thing to like, you got to play safe in some spaces, right? And then, but like and maybe if they come out with some stuff that's innovative, you know, or something new, that's something that like sets them apart. You know, you think of like Apple or Google, you know, either one of them, right? Like Apple does a lot of things that they come 5 years late to the party, 3 years late to the party, or whatever, after Google's already implemented something new, and then they just like, oh, we do this too, and they try to make it look like they are the first people to do it, but like, they also innovate. They also bring things, right. They bring new things to the phone market or whatever, you know, and then a couple of years later, Google follows trend, right? Like follows suit. And it's just like, you have to have a little bit of that give and take with, you know, creating trends, you know, driving forward the industry. And then also, you know, just like adopting what works from other, you know, from other platforms.
Right, that makes
And
sense.
so,
I
so
heard.
hopefully we see.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I had heard. I don't think this is a rumor. I think there was an interview. I didn't see the interview myself, but supposedly the PS Portal decision was made based off of player feedback. Like they sent out multiple surveys, and one of the things that kept coming up was like, you know, how do you use your PlayStation, or how often, or when, or whatever. What things get in the way? And it was like my family using the TV, me being at other places in the house, like that type of things. And that's what they
Right.
made the decision based off, supposedly. So I don't know how I feel about that or how true that is. I feel like there's a little bit of trend chasing in the handheld as well, but I just thought that was an interesting thing that I hadn't heard before. I read it this week, earlier this
Yeah,
week.
yeah.
So,
It was either like a comment on that Schreier article, maybe in Reddit or something, or it was a
hmm
part of that Reddit. Yeah, yeah. I think I remember seeing that too. Yeah. What do you think about that response? I mean, maybe it is right. Like, but like, how do you feel about the response of that? I think there are a few things, and it addressed one thing, which was like, oh, my family uses this TV, so I can't get the TV, and that's pretty much all that addresses, that the
yeah,
portal addresses. And it is, to me, it seems like you probably could have addressed. I can't remember what the three things were, but it's just like you could have addressed more of those things in a better way.
yeah.
I mean, do you have any thoughts on like what how they could have responded differently, or how they responded, or if you think they responded the right way?
I don't know if they could have responded differently. I'm not in their shoes and I don't have, their internal marketing and stuff like that. But thinking about how well they responded, it's no coincidence that they're doing a handheld at the same time as other handhelds, right? I don't think they were gonna be the first company to come out and do this. With the
Right.
success of the Switch and the Steam Deck, that enabled them to take this risk, as it were, for them. And then you got the ROG Ally and other stuff too. So I think if they were gonna do this, they needed to go full hog on it, right? They needed to do more than what they're doing and make this thing really badass. And it just doesn't feel that way. So like, yeah, address this concern, but be Sony, be PlayStation, be proud of what you're doing, and
Commit,
go all
right?
in on
Commit.
this. Yeah, yep,
Yeah, yeah. Dipping your toes in the water. It's just, I don't know. I mean, I guess they're going all in on the games as a service, right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, you want
Maybe
me
they
to play
should have.
that game anywhere, don't you? Freaking soup this thing
Yeah,
up.
right, right.
So,
Yeah.
any final thoughts on PlayStation before we jump over to Xbox?
Any thoughts on a successor, or what direction they
Ooh.
go? Don Matrick, Phil Spencer, Sean Layden.
If I was a console war person and I was an Xbox fan, I would set Don Matrick over there to nosedive the whole
Right,
thing.
right, right.
Um,
You know, what's Reggie Fils-Aimé been up to? I don't.
yo,
How nuts would that be? I think I think
yeah,
he's out of that business, but that would.
it, it has to be someone internal, right? Like, it doesn't sound like they've been grooming or breeding someone to take over this role. They're like waiting to make this decision in a way. They're gonna have an interim CEO. At least that's the announcement they made.
Right,
So
right. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, you'd think that like they would either like this is going to be our new CEO, and or you know, if they had somebody, right? But yeah, I don't know. Because they are doing this interim CEO and stuff, it's like maybe they look outside, like maybe they don't have somebody that's ready, that they're ready to groom from a turtle. Um yeah, that's an interesting thought.
yeah. All right. With that topic down, let's jump over to our next one. And I just brought up on the screen some slides, leaked slides from Xbox and ZeniMax. And this basically, the background on this is you had the ongoing FTC case with the acquisition of ABK, Activision Blizzard King, by Microsoft Xbox. And that looks like it's kind of in the rearview mirror now. It's probably going to happen, like 99.99999% sure that's going to happen. They had to upload some documents. And when they did, they put a link, and it linked to internal documents that were not supposed to go up there, like non-redacted things, like roadmaps. Granted, a year to 2 years old, but this showed a lot. So I think what I'll do really quick is just read down the screen so we know what's on this, and then we'll kind of pick out some highlights to talk about if that's cool with you. So this is all by fiscal year, and again, this is all internal. Things are subject to change, all that stuff. So I'm gonna run down. So
Yeah,
then,
some of it was from 2020, right? So some
yeah.
of this
So
is a little old. That yeah.
yep. So I'll skip the 2020 stuff, other than Fallout Shelter Online and Project Whirlwind. Then you had Starfield was expected in fiscal year 21. Elder Scrolls Online expansion. Redfall we know was a bomb. Doom Eternal DLC. Ghostwire Tokyo, which came out. Fallout Worlds for Fallout 76. Project Hibiki. Project Ubu.
Hi-Fi Rush.
Yep. Project Hibiki was Hi-Fi Rush. Good call. Project Ubu. Project Wanderer. Indiana Jones game we know is coming out. Fiscal year 22 is what it's slated as. Oblivion Remaster. I'll put a little emphasis on that one. Elder Scrolls Online expansion. Starfield DLC. And then on the mobile side, 3 planned titles. That fiscal year 23 was Doom Year Zero. Never heard of that one. And a DLC. Project Kestrel. Don't know what that is. Elder Scrolls Online expansion, Project Platinum, and then one planned mobile title. Then fiscal year 24, the Elder Scrolls 6 Project Kestrel expansion licensed IP game. I'm going to put a little emphasis personally on that to come back to. Fallout 3 remaster. That's a big one. And then Elder Scrolls Online expansion, a Ghostwire Tokyo sequel, and Dishonored 3 for any Dishonored fans out there, and Doom Year Zero DLC, and then one planned mobile title. So this like lays to bear, granted not Xbox Studios, but ZeniMax, right? And Bethesda under them.
Right.
Boom, here's the roadmap. And this is pretty crazy that this got out into the wild. There's never been a leak like this. And what does this leak tell you? What do these games tell you? What are you excited about? What should our listeners look forward to?
Oh man, give me Fallout 3 remaster and Oblivion remaster, please. Fallout 3 is among my favorite games of all time. At one point, I was calling it my favorite game of all time until Breath of the Wild came out. So to get and it didn't age super well. So to get like something that would make it bring it up to modern day times, modern controls or whatever, that would be so stinking awesome. And then Oblivion, I tried out a couple times and I, because I didn't save at right points, I had some, I just ended up dropping it because I got out of the dungeon or whatever at the start of Oblivion a couple times, and then like I died and I had to start it all over, and I was just like, I'm not doing that again. And Right. I'd love to, I've only played one Elder Scrolls game, and that's Skyrim. And so it's just like, I'd love to get that or Morrowind or whatever, just give me more Elder Scrolls. Yeah, I mean, Doom Year Zero, that would be a good one.
Whatever that means. I mean, I would assume it's in the same vein as Doom Eternal, right?
Yeah. So it seems like, it's really expanded the lore of Doom, right? And so there was, it seemed like some kind of prequel, right, to Doom and what they could do with the Doomslayer, and like I don't know, I'd be really interested to see what that is. What are some standouts for you?
Man, I am looking forward to the Indiana Jones game. I want to see what this is about. Like if it's going to be good. Like,
so note on that Indiana Jones game, it was noted that 3 games were planned for Indiana Jones in that document.
Okay.
3 of them. So they seem pretty confident, right? And it's Machine Games, right, that's doing it, and
like a trilogy, Uncharted style or something.
Yeah. So like, I mean, how sick is that? If we get 3 games, I mean, maybe that's changed, right? Again, but seems like they got some confidence in what they've got going with Indiana Jones, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely interested if they think it's good and they're like, hey, man, we can make 3 games out of this, or like 1 per each of the original movies. That seems pretty cool. Looking forward to seeing that. Definitely the Oblivion remasters, got me excited. I was hoping to see Morrowind on this list. Long considered one of the best Elder Scrolls games, if not the best. I know Skyrim's kind of like long lasting, but the thing with Morrowind is just like outdated systems and graphics and stuff. And so if it was brought to modern times and remade, I think it would sell like hotcakes. And then Fallout 3, I feel the same as you, one of my favorite games of all time. But I have to question, what is a remaster and title for that? And what engine is it done in? It's got to be done in Creation 2 engine, right? So how much is there to gain besides like better asset resolution and stuff? Like, do you feel that now of playing Starfield from Creation 2, that the jump from what was done in Fallout 3 to Starfield is like worth the price tag? Let's say this comes out at $70 or something. Obviously it'll come out on Game Pass, I think, but let's say it was $70. Do you think it's worth it, like that jump?
Oh man, with Game Pass, it's so hard for me to say anything's worth $70.
Yeah.
That's owned by Xbox, but yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, I loved, even if you brought up Fallout 3 to like Fallout 4, gameplay and everything, like as far as the controls and all that stuff like that. For me personally, that's worth the $70. Like it would modern. I can still play Fallout 4. I enjoy Fallout 4. So it's like if you bring Fallout 3 just up to that standard even, and I would imagine it would be at least a little bit better than that, and it probably performs better than that and stuff. But I mean, this is a remaster, not a remake necessarily. So how far do you go? And can you can take a remaster pretty far, as we've seen with Metroid Prime, right? And so if it gets a good remaster treatment, like Man, I mean, obviously, I would pay whatever whatever the going price for a new video game is to play one of my favorite games of all time again.
Yeah, be careful saying that. By the time this comes out, games may be expensive. Remember, President of Capcom said
Yeah.
we're not paying
That,
enough for games right now.
there goes that $100 I have to spend over the next 2 years, right?
Yeah, yeah. It would be cool if it came out with the DLC too. I would imagine it probably would if they did a remaster.
Sure.
Like, getting back into Operation Anchorage and the Pit and stuff like in maybe 4K or whatever they can make this thing run at, and with new systems, that'd be pretty fun, I think. So I'd definitely be down for that. What are your thoughts on Dishonored 3?
So I played like a couple hours of Dishonored. There are definitely games I want to revisit, but I've never really been a stealth game person. I've never enjoyed them. I played really the only Metal Gear I think I've put any time into is Ground Zero. That Ground Zero is like the Metal Gear 5 pre whatever game. Like it was just a few hours or whatever. I've tried to put some time into it. I think I maybe tried a couple things, but other games, Metal Gear games, but not more than an hour. I haven't had a great time with some of the stealth games. I would try it out. I don't know. It's on Game Pass, right? Like that's a game I wouldn't pay $70 for. But
All right. So you didn't beat the first one or the second one?
No.
Yeah,
I put like 5 hours.
I ripped through those. Those are so fun, I think.
I think they had an interesting world that I was like into. Like I said, I didn't play the second one, but the first one, like I was very fascinated at what was going on there, and it's definitely games I want to revisit. But I have too many games I want to revisit. So
yeah, that makes sense. So the other thing I want to call out here, we just got a shadow drop as of like 2 days ago of a Fallout Shelter clone, if you will, in Elder Scrolls setting. Did you happen to see the news on that?
I did not.
Yeah, so they made a Fallout Shelter game, but it's Elder Scrolls based, and they just shadow dropped it like a day or two ago. It's only on Android right now, soon to be iOS, I think. It might be like Android beta, but yeah, there's an article about it. I'm wondering, that's one of these projects listed here, whether it's Project Ubu or Wander or something. So,
Or just one of the mobile games, right?
yeah, one of the mobile games, yeah. So the last one I wanted to call attention to is the licensed IP game. So there has been a very long rumor about, what is ZeniMax Online going to do next? They've done Elder Scrolls ESO for so long, Elder Scrolls Online. Where do they go with this? What is the next IP they tap? Is it post-apocalyptic? Well, this says licensed IP a game, and there's been a rumor for a couple of years on and off that they've been working on a Mandalorian game over at ZeniMax. We just didn't really know the details. So I am hoping, praying, dreaming that this licensed IP game is Elder Scrolls Online, but in the Mandalorian universe. And you may never see me again. If this game comes out, I will just live in that world.
Yeah, I would say you're not going to bring a whole lot of interesting content to this game, to this podcast after a couple episodes, if that's all you got to talk about, right?
What happened this week on Tatooine? Yeah,
we're a Mandalorian channel now.
yeah.
But
yeah. Would that have any interest for you at all? I know you're not like a huge Star Wars fan. It's like you're casual, right? Would you be like interested? What if it came out and it's like, wow, this is like looking like one of the best MMOs? Like, does it do anything for you? No.
So Elder Scrolls is a more interesting IP to me than any Star Wars IP, and I haven't played ESO. I played the ESO beta, and that was it. So if Elder Scrolls doesn't have the pull for me, I highly doubt Mandalorian would.
Gotcha. Yeah. So it wouldn't pull you in like me. I mean, I'm on stream wearing a Star Wars shirt right now, so
sure.
Probably.
Yeah, and you played a lot of Sodor, right? So
yeah. Yep.
I mean, obviously that was BioWare, and so you're probably getting a different type of game, but I mean, two excellent RPG makers, right? Like, two between, I guess ZeniMax. I don't know. ZeniMax is different than Bethesda Game Studios, but ESO has a good reputation though. So
exactly, yeah, exactly. So they could really run with it. I mean, if they made it more like Star Wars Galaxies, the MMO from back in the day, that would be cool. So there's like a ton of cool systems in that where like there's like a player-driven economy because, depending on your profession, that's how you like. So like if you got hurt, there was like two types of wound. I can't remember what it was, but basically like you had like hit point damage and then like wounds or something, and you'd have to go back to a cantina and find a player whose profession was like doctor or medic, and then they would get credit for helping you. So it was like this really interesting player-driven economy that forced you to go meet up, talk to people like, hey, like I'm hurt. I need you. It's not like you go to some NPC and like, oh, I'm just gonna click and heal up. Like you had to actually interact and like, hey, anybody a doctor here? Medic, whatever. And then you would give them whatever you were good at. All these different professions, and they just masterfully tied that together. So much so that that game. I'm going on a tangent here, but that game has um, a following still, and where they've created like their own private servers and stuff and run that. So if you're Star Wars Galaxy fans, shout out. Sorry for the tangent. Anything else on these ZeniMax games before we jump over to our next slide from the leaks?
Oh man, I don't have anything off the top of my head. I feel like there's more I wanted to talk about, but we can go ahead and move forward.
Okay.
I'll just interrupt whatever we talk about next.
When you remember, yeah, yeah.
That's right.
So next up was Project Sebel or Sebille, the new Xbox controller. We have it up on the screen if you're an audio listener. This is what maybe it's a mock-up, but it's a dual tone. The top is white. Top 2/3 of the controller are glossy white. The bottom 1/3 of the controller with the handles is like a grippy matte black. I don't know if that's what they'll go with in the future with this, but there's also the Xbox Design Labs. But Evan, you want to give us like rundown on this controller, or do you want me to do that, or what are your thoughts here too?
Yeah. I mean, you can do the rundown on the details of it, but I'll say that the controller to me looks ugly and just like outdated design. I don't know. The function, I am all for, man. Give me some gyro, please. Give me, like the haptic feedback. Like I just love the added functionality there. Like we've seen the PlayStation give the haptic feedback. And now PlayStation and Nintendo both have been doing some kind of gyro, some kind of controls like that for a while now. And after playing Starfield and trying to like open up a locker and I've got a med pack sitting next to a pack of cigarettes sitting next to a folder, and I'm just trying to grab that med pack, and it's like nope, I didn't want that folder. I didn't want that deck of playing cards. Like I wanted the med pack, and now I've got junk in my inventory that's like cool. I gotta go find that and drop it.
Never get rid of it.
Right, exactly, and we already have a encumberment problem, right? So,
yeah.
and in Starfield, so and it's just like I literally found myself for the first like 20 hours of that game, like when I was trying to do those precise movements like that, like I'm sitting there tilting my controller because I'm used to it. Like I've just been playing prior to that. I had played 120 hours of Tears of the Kingdom, where it's just like I've had that, and to not have that is just like after playing with it, it's really noticeable to not have it, and that is something that is it really helps with those finer movements, right?
Yeah, so that's a standout for you here, right? Let me run through a couple things from the controller too, and we can keep talking. So this is this new controller is supposedly going to be packaged in with future products, which we'll talk about on the next slide. But Xbox Wireless 2 technology, Bluetooth 5.2 technology, direct to cloud is a big standout for me. New mobile app features where you can pair this stuff, more precision haptic feedback, haptics double as speakers, an accelerometer, gyro you talked about, quieter buttons and thumbsticks. So kind of falling more, if you're a non-Xbox guy or PC guy, this is falling more in line with the new PlayStation controller and the DualSense, that type of vibration stuff. Rechargeable and swappable battery, so coming with a rechargeable battery. I don't know if that means it's just rechargeable and you take it out, or if it's like internal rechargeable and there's swappable AA's. Not really sure. New thumbsticks, improved longevity, yada yada, and lift to wake, which sounds cool as well. So out of those features, to me, what's jumping out is the direct to cloud. That's big time stuff, right? So this reminds me of the Stadia stuff from Google, where to reduce the latency and actually make this whole game streaming thing work, you don't connect the controller to the console. You connect it directly to your router, to the server that Xbox has somewhere running your game. Reduces that input latency and makes the game feel better to play. Is this a standout feature to you? And what do you think is the best thing about this controller in general?
Yeah. So the direct to cloud isn't like something that's like, oh my gosh, but like to be honest, I do play some xCloud gaming, whether it's on my phone, on my iPad, or occasionally on the Xbox, or like do I want to download a game, or sometimes there's a just like a Xbox rewards like play this game, so I'm just like, oh, I'm not going to download it, and then sometimes I've gotten hooked into those games. So like to be able to just like have a little better latency and on the input and stuff for the controller, is only, is better. And if they can improve that xCloud performance, I mean, I'm all for that. I like I said, I do use it now and then. And maybe it makes it better for experiences like Starfield. I usually typically use it for like indie games, or I've played like Age of Empires where it's not super time to, like sensitive. So if we can, you can reduce the, that sensitivity or whatever to play games that are a little more time sensitive. That's just better to me. Adding Bluetooth is interesting, and we can get into the consoles. I think, the refresh adding Bluetooth as well. I'm sorry, the controllers already have Bluetooth. The console is what we could talk about that later. But
Yep.
I have that accelerometer, and honestly, now I'm looking at the picture of the controller. It's like I think having that like that grip, right, like is nice, but I feel like it needs to come up a little more, right? Like it looks like it's just like some hip hugging lowrider like pants, right? Like pull it up, give it suspenders, and and maybe it looks a little better. It feels is if it makes it more comfortable. I mean, I'm all about the comfort, but it looks too low to me.
I hope it's a mock-up and that this changes a little bit. I think we've tried the glossy thing before and it just does not work, right? Like it's sweaty.
Right. Yeah. I was just going to say that if this, obviously this is a render, it's like, if the glossy is the goal here, like, please don't.
Yeah. I don't know. And then I wonder if there'll be paddles on the back of this, or no, they keep that away to upsell their net. I mean, this controller has pretty much everything you would want besides like maybe back paddles. It already has reprogrammable buttons.
It's got the swappable sticks,
reprogrammable
buttons. It's got the nice D-pad. You don't have the swap.
Throw the paddles on the back. You know what I mean?
Right?
And are they still going to keep it to upsell their big, their elite controller, which is not so elite. I heard it breaks all the time. So
people like it, but they're like, it just breaks all the time. So I don't know.
I'm pretty excited about this as an Xbox fan, because if this brings it more in line with the PlayStation controller, that's a big win to me, because the haptics on the PlayStation controller are bar none the best I've ever seen. And they actually, when used right, as well as the little speaker, like when they're actually used right, that's makes a big difference in the game, really immerses you. And it's something Xbox has been missing, right? Like the Xbox controller is a great controller. It's not the best controller. The only downside to the PlayStation one, the DualSense, is the battery life is terrible. It's like 3 hours. Hate it. I'm swapping constantly.
Yeah, that's true. Please, as long as I make this like the PlayStation controller, but give me the battery life that the Xbox controller.
And so maybe that's why it's got the rechargeable and swappable. Maybe that's their approach to, is like, hey, you don't have to always plug this thing in. You can just swap it out if you're in the middle of gaming, but then at the end of the night you plug it in. I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I'm reading here too. There's the feel of the game. It has haptics double as speakers.
Yes. So I think that's the thing that the Switch does, where kind of move
the rumble. The rumble almost sounds like certain things.
Yeah, I remember like you would tilt it and it was supposed to be like a ball rolling side to side, and you could kind of hear that. I think that's what it is. So now the speaker in the controller, maybe Sony has a patent on that. I'm not sure, but good enough haptics that you get that kind of force feedback and effect.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yep. And so this controller is going to be bundled in with what we're going to talk about next as we jump over to the Project Brooklyn, the Xbox Series X refresh. If you're watching the video, yes, that looks like a trash can, or like the Pro Mac or whatever that Apple released or a long time ago. Remember that? It was like cylinder trash can looking thing. So this guy is a refresh. This, to be clear, this does not seem to be a pro console at all, like Sony's rumored to have coming out. So this is just 4K Gen 9 console gaming, more internal storage, faster Wi-Fi, reduced power, and the packaged in controller. So what are some of the highlights here? 2 terabytes instead of 1 terabyte. USB-C front port that has power delivery. Same price, was $500. Got the new controller we just talked about. Got a modern Southbridge internally. That's going to help out. Wi-Fi 6E radio for better throughput latency and interference mitigation. Bluetooth 5.2, which you mentioned, coming from the controller. Better accessory experiences, because previously I think this was not native Bluetooth on there. You had to use this Xbox wireless technology. Smaller die, 6 nanometer for improved efficiency, and then the typical reduced power usage and recyclable material and stuff like that. So all in all, to me, seems like a pretty good refresh. What are your thoughts on this guy? And there's one thing here that I didn't mention. Do you see a disk drive on this Xbox Series X?
I'm out.
Taking my games and I'm going home.
No, right. No, honestly, I mean, if I didn't have my Series X, maybe, but I have a Series X, and this just doesn't seem like a big enough jump. And I've actually thought about, like, I probably would have just been fine with the Series S. I don't need the best graphics, the best whatever. So it's just like losing the disc drive on an Xbox to me is a lot less significant than losing a physical media, for a Nintendo console. I think I mean, Xbox is largely a Game Pass machine for me.
Okay.
And not just like, oh, I only play game, like, it's the Game Pass just offers so much of what I'm looking for out of an Xbox. So yeah, I have maybe two physical games for my Xbox. So I have Battlefield 2042 and Cyberpunk 2077, two games that launched excellently, right? Mm-hmm. So two of the games that were like infamous for their launch. I mean, Cyberpunk's come a long way, but and yeah,
so this doesn't bother you at all.
It doesn't. The one thing that does bother me is that this is like, do they phase out the disc Series X? Do they bring some kind of accessory disc attachment drive, like a USB-C disc
like
drive?
Sony's rumored to do that, to remove the disc drive and have an attachment.
Because like, if you're eliminating any disc, any kind of disc drive on your consoles, that feels, I'm just not ready for it. Not ready for it. I don't know if the world is ready for it. No. It seems like, Blu-ray and stuff is actually making a little bit of, because you get Blu-rays are coming back, like 4K Blu-rays and stuff. I mean, not coming back by any large scale or anything, but it seems like people are returning a little bit, right? Like, if you're, I don't know, would you call it a video file? I don't know. But in the same way you have audio files, right? Like, yeah. Right. You get a higher quality picture from a 4K Blu-ray than you do streaming service. And so I don't know if that's kind of like driving the need for physical media. Maybe if I want to watch a Blu-ray, I can't do it if I don't have a disc drive on my Xbox Series X, because I'm not going to go buy a Blu-ray player. But,
right. So from a personal standpoint, you're okay with this, just in your personal gaming experience. You're like, well, I don't have physical games on this. That's cool with me. But from an industry standpoint, you're like, oh, it's a red flag to you, right? Is that kind of what you're getting
Absolutely.
at?
Yep. Okay. How do you feel about it? I think I'm
going to tell you, I've got, I think, 2 physical games for Xbox as well. It's Cyberpunk 2077, and I think the other one's For Honor from like the Xbox One days. Like, everything else has been digital for me. I'm so far gone down that train, which we'll talk about on our next topic. And man, I want to say, so the refresh doesn't bother me. I don't think that they're going to have 2 Series X consoles sitting side by side. I think the square one's phased out. This has got to be, there's not going to be a disc drive one, dude. I think it's just the S and this new X, and well, there was a mention of another Series S, but I think it'll stay digital, obviously. Like,
right. They're not going to add a disc drive to the Series S, right?
I do see the chance of the external hard drive, or them just opening it up to disk drive. Thank you, because they have that USB-C powered port on the front. Like, kind of makes sense. Like, yeah, maybe we'll have an attachment, or we work with XYZ, manufacturers to have that. I think a big mistake on their part was using the Seagate proprietary expansion drives. Granted, they're putting this one up to 2 terabyte, so you kind of eliminate the need for that, I think. But Sony had it right, where you can just swap in, bigger storage into there. This is a mistake to go just partner up and do that.
I just don't understand why we can't have both, right? You have the external slot for convenience, and then you have the internal, swappable hard drive for, affordability.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's just more I/O, I guess. Maybe a cost thing. Well,
right.
It just depends. But I think this will be a great deal for somebody that needs an Xbox. I'm not going to run out and buy this. I'm just going to
So get the it's controller. Supposed to come out at the same price.
Right. Yeah.
It's supposed to be at $500, right? You lose the disc drive. It's a slight improvement. You get the new controller, which is cool. But so so say this thing comes out at $500 and then the PS5 Pro comes out at $500.
Oh, they're screwed.
What do you think that
They're screwed.
Right.
They're screwed. I think that's a great point. I think these slides coming out put them in a very bad position. If anything about Phil Spencer released an email like he's disappointed in this, that this happened, and this isn't the entire plan and things have changed, yada yada. But the part about the disappointment, I think, is this. I think it's this this price, because now Sony knows, they're going to come out with this refresh for 500, and to your point, if they have the Pro lined up and they're trying to figure out the price and they were thinking 600 or something, and they come out, they're like, oh, well, we'll take the loss, but we'll do it at 500. And now we look way better. We're going to sell like hotcakes compared to Xbox because they just have a refresh. We have a Pro for the same price. Why would you buy an Xbox?
Right. Like that 1 terabyte, whatever, that, added Bluetooth, like that, people, those are good added features. But when you're comparing, like, I have the Pro versus just the standard, like, you're not giving me any more performance, man. Like, people are gonna, for the same price, people are gonna go jump for that power. It's like PlayStation's already in the lead, right? So like,
you can't call this thing the Pro either. Like, I don't know the marketing for this new Xbox.
Right.
Is it just Xbox Series X and they don't say anything about it? Like, it just happens? Or is it like,
it is adorably all digital, right?
Oh, I hate that. Yeah, that was in the slides. Now adorably all digital. I don't mind the digital stuff, which, we get into it, but that's weird. That's a weird marketing term.
It's a weird thing to call it. Yeah. And like, this is all internal, right? So maybe it was just some joke they had, or inside joke they had going on, and now, but like when it goes public, when it, it gets leaked like this, it's just like, what is that? Like,
yeah.
Like,
no
either you hate
right?
it or you're just confused.
Yeah. So I think this is good. I think for refresh terms, it's good. If they need to have a Pro, like if Sony does have a Pro up their sleeve, I think it's a very bad sign for Xbox.
Yeah, and I mean the PS5 Pro was already kind of rumored to come out at $500, like prior to this leak happening, right? So, and it's just like, and people are saying like, oh, it's the same price as the PS5, and we've talked about this a little bit, but it's like, well, if it doesn't have a disc drive, you've got to pay $100 for a disc drive, then it's really not. But like, if this Series X doesn't have a disc drive, it's the same thing, right? So you're paying $100 more for basically just the digital Series X, where it's just like PlayStation 5 digital is already $400. So it's just like, you're now comparing like, okay, I can get basically, the same level of console from PlayStation for $100 less, or a better console at the same price. Also, like, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, this is really unfortunate for Xbox. I'm an Xbox fan. I have all the consoles, so I'm not trying to take sides here. But for any company, when this type of info gets out, there's leaks and rumors, and I think they're working on the new God of War, the new Halo, whatever. I've heard it's open world, that type of thing.
Right.
But when your playbook gets leaked out, I mean, imagine playing basketball or football, and the other team knows the plays. Like they're coming in, or you're playing poker and your hand is played face up. That's hard. That's tough.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think? So this is like the cylinder trash can shape.
Yeah.
I gotta ask you? So is your Xbox Series X right now, and you're like, how is it standing straight up or is it on its side?
We're gonna have to clip this out. This is a question for the ages. I am standing up. What about you?
Mine's on its side.
What?
So if I were to get this thing, is this gonna roll off my entertainment center?
Okay, I didn't see where you're going with this, but now I do. No, they're gonna have like little plastic things. So people will be 3D printing them, like hooks that you set down and then lays in the side, almost like a ship in a bottle. That's what lays on them.
Right, ship in a bottle. There we go. But it's
my Xbox Brooklyn.
It's just gonna look like this barrel laying. I don't know. That's
weird.
The vertical it's like, okay, it just kind of makes sense for the, it's just a rounded version of the current one. But I was like, laying on its side, that's as awkward as the, the PS5 disc version or whatever without using a stand or something. Like, it just doesn't look right.
Yeah, and maybe this is just like not the final mock-up. Like, it looks super plain, right? There's a power button, a sync button, and a USB port, and they're all just put together on the bottom. No branding or anything on it. So I got to think this might change a little bit, but I don't know if the cylinder shape will change. So.
Right.
Yeah, same. Any final thoughts on this before we jump into our final and main topic of the day?
Oh man, I don't have any.
Okay. And well, listeners, viewers, let us know in the comments what you think of this and what's going on in the industry and this push towards digital and this kind of battle between Sony and Xbox and what's going to happen next year. So jumping over, we have our final topic of the day, future of the gaming industry, and just talking about things we've hit on already. Digital only, no physical games, all online, even for single player. Let's just do a deep dive here, Evan. Let's talk about the pros, the cons, how we personally feel about this, and where we really think the industry's going. So I'll kick it over to you by just saying, back to the question of the day. When I gave you $100, you were buying digital games. You weren't running to buy physical games. So what's the deal? What are your thoughts here?
Man, if it wasn't for my love of Nintendo and for whatever reason I love owning, and maybe it's a cartridge thing, I don't think it is because I still have my Wii U games, I have GameCube games, right? I didn't care for the Wii, so I don't really put any of those. But something about Nintendo games, I just love having that physical media, and I think the cartridge for the Switch helps because I have probably a lot more Switch games than and 3DS games, right? There's something about that cartridge. If Nintendo didn't exist, I don't know, I'd probably feel a lot better about it. But there's a game preservation thing about it. But I mean, really, that happens on PC. You get ROMs and all that stuff. So for actual like preservation of the history of video games, this thing that scares me is we don't have. You get an Xbox, right? Like, people talk about, oh, PC's been digital forever, like for the last 20 years and nobody's, thought a thing about it. And the thing is, it's like, yeah, while Steam dominates the PC market storefront, you still have GOG, you still have GMG, you still have Fanatical, you have Humble Bundle, you have Xbox Store, you have all these storefronts. There's not one place to buy. So it is a competing industry. You have Epic Game Store, right? So if Steam didn't have that, they wouldn't have to have Steam sales, right? Like the way that they do. The Steam sales are notorious for having these steep discounts and stuff. And it's like, honestly, you can get games cheaper elsewhere, but like Steam is just a convenient place to get it. So Steam doesn't have to have as steep of discounts as maybe it used to on its sales, but they still have to be pretty steep because if they never drop the price, you never saw any price drops on Steam, people are going to move to Epic or they're going to, get their games from Fanatical or GOG or whatever. And then you're not going to get the, so there is that competition on an Xbox, on a PlayStation, on a Nintendo. You don't have competing storefronts. So
only for games that are on both, right? So I don't know if they wanted to do a sale, to get you to buy it on the Xbox versus the PlayStation, but your point's well taken. They control that storefront. It's almost like Apple, right? They kind of had this wall.
Yeah, but then you have to have you have to have the PlayStation and the Xbox.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So if you're just an Xbox player, or just a PlayStation player, or just a Switch player, only one of those consoles, you're locked into that avenue for getting games. You either get physical, which may go away, or you're locked into their shop, right?
Yep. Yeah, and then then it allows for something like Game Pass, which is a great deal in gaming. Let's bump it up to $25 a month. Let's bump it up to $30 a month because you're going to pay it because now, games are just, $100 a pop and
they're not going on sale.
Right. They go on sale for maybe $80, or, it's just, I don't think, losing physical media for that reason is good. If you start somehow opening up storefronts, I don't think that's something that you could really
I was going to ask you, so could we in the future see something like where the EU came down on Apple and is going to basically force them to allow a separate storefront, besides their app store? Like, is that the type of legal battle we'll get into in the future with consoles where gamers or even, the EU regulatory bodies say, hey, that's not right. These customers should have options. Do you think that'll happen?
I don't see it happen anytime soon in the gaming industry. Like that's what the platform's built around. I could be wrong, but everybody has a smartphone. It's almost like seen as something that you have to have, like a car or something, right? Like, and it's like I don't think Toyota would get away with not with like what John Deere does for the right to repair, right? And so in the same sense, I think that like a video gaming industry is going to get a little away with a little more than what the phone market is going to get rid of or get away with, because there's billions of phones out there, and there's it's just a whole different animal.
Yeah, maybe the solution, like let's say that does come to fruition where like they're getting a lot of pressure from regulatory bodies or customers. Maybe it's that other shops can sell digital codes. Would that alleviate that? You know what I mean? Where I don't know, I'm just making this up, but Steam, for example, can sell a digital code that activates on the Xbox. You know how you would buy, you kind of go buy a game today, and sometimes you don't even get a disc, you get a code.
Right. Yeah, I was say, so those digital codes, right? You can go to Walmart and get even digital codes, whether it's digital currency or a digital code for the game. But right, like you still buy that digital code, and Xbox still gets their cut, right?
Yeah.
Or Nintendo still gets their cut.
It's just a different way it's presented to you, right? There's no real difference on the back end, is your point.
Yeah.
Right. They're ultimately controlling the sale and the profit and the revenue and yada yada.
Yeah. So I think you have to have storefronts, right? You have to have multiple storefronts for that to be, and the ecosystem that you create around at that point, then why am I even creating a console? I'm just going to have a PlayStation storefront on PC. I'm just going to have an Xbox storefront on PC.
Yeah.
And, because they don't make money on those consoles and Nintendo makes very little money on the console. So why would I make a console if I'm not making the cut from the store? You can go buy a PC and let third parties handle building set top PCs that plug in, maybe like bring back the Steam machine type of concept. Let third parties hash it out over the competing having TV consoles, and then you can put whatever. I mean, the idea of that is kind of neat, right? Then now you have a PC, and now you're just like, okay, I have one PC that runs PC games, PlayStation games, Xbox games, right? Nintendo games. So then that, I don't know. Yeah, but I don't see that. So go ahead.
No, so I see what you're saying. With the digital, do you think this is coming within the next 5 years? Like, we're not gonna. Let's say the big three. I think Nintendo's next console is probably gonna have some type of cartridge or whatever. I don't think they're cutting us off yet. Let's say PlayStation, Xbox is the next console that comes out all digital, no matter what.
Yeah, I think so if we're getting these mid-gen refreshes that are going to be all digital with maybe, you can get an external disk drive attachment, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's the last time we see a disk drive on PlayStation or Xbox. Why would they? They're already getting rid of them, right? Like now the disk drive is an attachment, and then next gen just releases and you can use this. You can use that same attachment, disk drive attachment. Maybe it's forward compatible. Yeah. Maybe or it's forward compatible with your PS5 library or your Xbox Series or an Xbox. You can use it for backwards compatibility games.
Right.
But it's I think we're out of disc games.
We're out. Yeah. So we're in that interim transition phase. You're saying so. Literally, the next one. That's it. Man, that's tough. I mean, I don't think it changes anything for me right now, but I think I would agree with your sentiment that it could be concerning for the industry. Game preservation is definitely a big issue. I think let's look at something like Avengers. The Avengers game, it was it Crystal Dynamics that did that? I think I could be wrong. That just went offline. It's done. Single player, multiplayer, you can't get it on the store now. That was because they lost their license expired with Marvel for them and Embracer Group. But if there's no physical copies anymore and that happens, the game's just gone forever. Unless they decided to buy the IP back, right? The license. And if a game is mediocre, that game was less than mediocre based on most reviews, but let's say it's just middle of the road game, but hey, you love that game, I love that game, and you just can't, all of a sudden you can't get it anymore. That's kind of scary, right? As a gamer.
Yeah. And next gen comes out and it's not backwards compat with that game, right? Like, so you're just like, oh, I'm not going to hold on to if I can trade this console in to get $300 toward the next one or something like that, with those deals they have at the gen, and it's like, I can't keep this game for $300. Yeah, I mean, and
Yeah.
you run into like when games, things like that happen with games anyway. The disc, that the physical copies go up in price, but there's something that just, yeah, there's something lost there with the physical media, I think.
Yeah, well, it's a bigger trend outside of gaming, guys. Like, I'm a big movie fan, follow a lot of movie podcasts, and I think Australia, Disney's decided no more physical media. They're cutting back on physical media for Australia, and then I think it's either Target. Best Buy's already withdrawn their physical media stuff, but Target's planning on not stocking Blu-rays anymore, I think. So, I mean,
Wow.
it's dwindling. This is all news from within the past 2 to 4 weeks. So it's not just hitting gaming; it's hitting everywhere. I mean, why spend the cost if people are willing to pay digital? And let's say I would assume you have a higher profit margin, and people are willing to pay that for the convenience factor, yada yada. Then why even make the disc and just take that option away from everybody and force them onto your more profitable option? I mean, totally get it from a business standpoint. As a consumer, that kind of sucks, right?
Right.
Less options is not good as a consumer, right?
Yeah, right. It reduces, yeah, exactly. Reducing the number of options, and then you can't do secondhand, and then like, it just it locks you into having to buy from that storefront. And
How do you let somebody borrow a game? Like, do you think that these console manufacturers will implement that? You know, when I
no
had
way.
Metroid Dread, I came and let you borrow it so you could play, but now what?
Yeah, no, I think, I mean, they just get rid of that, right? Like they get away with it now, and they just see that people go 95% digital. They have game sharing, right? And or whatever, there's just the trend toward digital. And it's just like people are, so it's just like, okay, maybe we'll get a vocal minority, but like, most people we're still gonna get our sales, right? Like most people aren't gonna care, so we don't care.
Yeah, nobody's gonna
And
stop buying Call of Duty, right?
right, exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I guess one positive thing is it's probably better for the environment, but yeah, to not have to have all that physical media and stuff, and so maybe they're, and then I'm gonna say something here like an NFT or blockchain, right? Man, that would be the implementation of being able to share games or sell your copy of a digital game, right? But I don't I don't think anybody wants to hear there's no positive PR out there for press out there for NFTs or blockchain. So
yeah. What if I would hope that they come up with some creative things. I'm just trying to think of, like, I'm brainstorming what could you do to make digital more appetizing, and I'm thinking, what if hey, a loyalty thing. Hey, you bought Uncharted 1. If you have that and you're buying Uncharted 2 digital, it's $10 off. I don't know, something like that. Like, could that work?
Yeah.
Is there a trade-in mechanism where you're like, hey, I beat this game, take away my access to it. Here you go for 10% off, 30% off, or dollars off of the next game. I don't know. Like, that may sound crazy, but there's some ideas that come to my mind.
No, that actually, you see that in the indie scene, like as far as like indie developers have put like, hey, if you have one of our games, you get 20% off of the rest of our games. And I know for at least on the eShop that happens. And I think there's one out there. They pump out a bunch of like $5 games, and some of them are like half decent. They're just smaller games or whatever. But it's like you buy one and you get 10% off the next game. If you have two, you get like 20% off the next game or something like that. And you kind of get up to like some certain discount, and you can just get, and then they'll have a sale, and you can sometimes get like half their game or 5 games for like under $1 or something like that because of these discounts. But so I could see that. I think that would be maybe the direction, right? Like if you have and you're even seeing with like even with physical media, right? The Final Fantasy Rebirth is going. You if you pre-order it, you get Final Fantasy whatever the first one Interlude.
Yep, you get Interlude and Rebirth for the price of one.
Which that's a pretty honestly a fantastic deal. Yeah,
I'm gonna probably pick that up.
That's mighty generous of you, Square. So that to me that's pretty impressive, and so I would love hopefully you'd see some of those deals and stuff if we go all digital, and maybe even more so because they're saving on the physical print.
Well, yeah, and if that's a trend they start, I think you get. I mean, I'm no marketing genius, but I would think you get some type of boost sales. Like, if we know that's a thing and there's duologies and trilogies, well, of course I'm going to buy the first one because it's getting good reviews. I'll buy it, and it's going to give me a slight price discount on the next one. It's almost like how the battle passes work in games like Fortnite, where you buy the battle pass, and most good battle passes, if that is such a term that exists, have the amount of coins or whatever you will, digital currency, to purchase the next battle pass. So as long as you play through the whole battle pass, you've now paid for the next one. No more real money, right? That's assuming you don't spend those coins on something else like an outfit or whatever. But kind of like that, hey, you buy in, you're in, you get a discount, whatever. I could see them doing that. That might make it more appetizing for physical only people, but there's definitely going to be a very angry minority.
Yeah. Yeah. And alternatively, I think, the justification too is to buy our subscription.
Yeah, right? Totally. Like that's Xbox's strategy. I would imagine PlayStation's kind of doing that as they tag along with their PS Plus stuff. But Xbox, all roads lead to Game Pass. The series refresh goes to Game Pass. This controller with connecting straight to the cloud leads to streaming in Game Pass. The TV integration that we're hopefully going to be seeing potentially with this controller and future TVs leads to Game Pass. Everything is going to Game Pass because that's where they can get that money, just that recurring revenue, Netflix style.
Yeah, which is wild to think, right? Like as much as we've both talked about how much we love Game Pass and like how great of a deal in gaming, but now you're not only not owning physical media, but you're not owning digital media. You just
that's a whole different one, right? You're out left field, yeah, nothing.
Right. It's just like none of this is mine at this point, and it's. That's why it can be such a great part of why it can. I don't know, not the only reason, but part of why it can be such a great deal. I mean, how does that give you any feelings? Like, do you think there's a future where we only have Game Pass, right? Like, do you see a future where it's like Netflix, where it's like Netflix doesn't sell any movies or shows or anything. You have to buy the streaming service.
Yeah, it's too early to tell because man. That's so interesting. I mean, there's different problems in the movie industry and the streaming industry than here, but it's kind of the same thing, right? So Netflix got it figured out, but it took a long time for them to even come close to green, right? There are loss after loss after loss every year trying to ramp this thing up, just knowing like, hey, stick to the plan. This is the process. We're going to get to where we want to get to. And then it's just going to be money, money making machine. And you see in these other movie streaming industries, Disney Plus, yada yada, trying to do this, and they're failing, right? Or they're not putting enough money into the show, or some of them are throwing too much money. Like, oh yeah, we just throw money at this and we'll get subscribers, right? And then shows are getting canceled, pulled off, and you could start to see that with games potentially.
So you see like big. You see big third party or big, gaming companies laying off like 900 people in a day. And is that what you're saying?
Epic? Is that a reference to Epic?
Yeah. That'd be an epic layoff. Yeah. By Epic.
Yeah.
But no, that's an interesting point. It seems like it'd almost take, a company worth hundreds of billions of dollars to be able to pull something like that off. Right.
Yeah. Like a Microsoft. Microsoft.
Right. Yeah. So, back to, you look at the ABK deal and like we're not looking at Sony as a competition. We're looking at Apple and Google, right? And Amazon as their competition. And that kind of like makes that you think about that.
It makes more sense.
Netflix was in the red for so long. And so it takes tons and tons and tons of money to keep it going until it becomes green. And the only people that are going to be able to sustain anything like that are Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, Google, that would try to even jump into the gaming industry. And it's just like, and really, I don't think Google's a player because there's no trust or faith in Google that they're going to stick to anything. So I don't think they would commit and stick to something long enough to really, I don't know, maybe at some point, but it was just like, it would take a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. It does play into that, that overall, it's just at a higher echelon than just Xbox versus Sony was their point, right? So what about, not only just digital future, but online only? We talked about Payday 3 at the top of the show, and it's online only even if you want to play a single player. It's been a thing on and off for the past few years, especially since the Xbox One and PS3, PS4 era. What what are your thoughts on that? It left a sour taste in my mouth when I'm trying to pay Payday and I can't even freaking do the tutorial or whatever because it's online only and their servers are. It's not my connection that sucks. It's their servers can't keep up. You know what I mean? What the heck?
Yeah.
What do you think there?
Yeah. I mean, you and I grew up in rural Midwest America, right? And where internet is a luxury. It was a luxury for a good chunk of our upbringing, right? And even today, you know, the town that we grew up in, it's they just in the last couple of years started getting like just serviceable internet, right? We were getting, you know, 60 meg was like, oh my goodness, like we like that just became available. Like the best internet available was less than 20 meg just a few years ago.
Yeah.
And you know, in the town that we grew up in, and then, you know, it can stream Netflix, but like when you go to download a game, right? Like I went and downloaded, you know, say Payday the other day. It took me 15 minutes, and you know, I've got the cheapest internet package I can get from Spectrum out here, and you know, where I live now, where it's just like it would have taken me I don't know, 5 times that at least, and that was on this, you know, on the 60 meg that I had. So the
like
online only thing, yeah, and it's just like internet goes out, and you know, like the idea that, so I guess that was more of like for downloading a game, more into the physical media thing and stuff, and you still have day one patches, but like the availability of the internet, right, and the latency and stuff that you could deal, like it's not as, you're really ruling out a lot of your demographic by doing that, I believe. You know, I mean, sure, bulk population is going to be in your cities where there is accessible internet, but there are plenty of gamers that are not, and a lot of those, honestly, like, you know, again, you know, there's a lot of rural Ohio that, like, you see it's just like old retro gaming is very prevalent in those areas, just because that's what they have access to, right? They don't, I think it's because the access to being online gaming is limited, and so you just tend to lean back towards, you know, more of the stuff that you have access to, and you don't have to rely on online, and you know, you don't have to rely on any kind of online connectivity.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about to going digital? You're going all digital, right? And you're on Game Pass or whatever. How do they got to validate that you can play those games, right? So what is the balance for them and for the player of, you know, all right, we check in every time you play, when you install the game, and then every week after, every day after. You know, what if the internet's not available? If we go to straight digital only and I lose connection or something, you know, the internet is not a simple thing. You know,
Right.
You're generally speaking this, but you're going through a lot of layers and routers and, you know, providers, ISPs, and get back to Microsoft, back to you. That's assuming that your router's set up correctly. You don't have, you know, strict NAT type, whatever it is, and that's not even talking about an outage. And you know, you want everybody that owns a console or TV to be able to do this, play a game. That's a tough ask, and to validate that you own the games, and how do I play it offline at all? Like, if let's say you know, I get my new Series X, it's all digital, and Baldur's Gate's finally out on that. I download Baldur's Gate, you know, either bought it or part of Game Pass. Then that's a single player game, right? How do I go? You know, I'm gonna go over to my buddy's house and you know, out in the boonies or whatever, or the internet went out and I want to set up and play, and now I can't. I can't play any of my games. What is the balance? Or do you have any ideas on what they're gonna do? Like,
No, I mean, that's already a problem, right? So I own a physical and digital copy of Tears of the Kingdom, and I was, you know, on a cross country flight, coming home, and you know, I did my check in, and like I closed. I don't even know that I fully closed out of the game. I must have, but like I closed out of the game, and then I tried to open it back up, and I had to check in, and I was on the flight, and I didn't have the Wi-Fi, and now I can't verify that I have access to the game. And I was like, cool. I was looking forward to playing, you know, Tears of the Kingdom for 4 hours or whatever, and now I can't play. I can't play my Switch, and so
that's a terrible feeling.
Yeah, it was awful, right? Like, and that only, you know, something needs to be figured out. I think the check-ins, right? Like, you know, the Switch that I had with me was not the home console, and I don't know if that changes anything. I think it still has to do the check-in for digital games. I don't know if it has to do it as often, but you know, having a, you know, especially when we're moving to, you know, it seems like the handheld PCs, obviously the Switch, right? Like we're getting more and more. You know, handheld is becoming more and more popular. So you're going to have more likely to like hopping on a plane or whatever, times that you may not be able to connect to the internet. I don't know. But I think you just have to extend those check-ins. I don't know. Do you have some kind of like on system, like check the thing that like checks in whenever it's available, and it just like it's valid, like it's a token that's valid for X number of days or something like that.
What if they try and do it through their phone, like a Nintendo style? Nintendo way ahead of the curve here, moving all their online stuff through the phone, jokingly. But what if you have the Xbox app and it's like, hey, everybody has a phone. You may not have Wi-Fi, but you have cellular, maybe. In most places. Well, not the airplane, I guess, but right. you can tap. But yeah, checked in and it Bluetooth to your Xbox or your PlayStation. I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. That would be a terrible thing to have to do that, but.
Yeah, it sounds awful.
He's like, no, I don't want it. I don't want it.
No, thanks. I'll take my physical cards. Which,
yeah, I don't.
So I got my analog pocket, right? I can play the physical media. Got that coming in.
There you go. And let me ask you this too. Then, does this lead to more pirating? Does digital only push pirating more? So you can get these like maybe cracked versions that don't do the online check-in or whatever. Maybe, right? I think.
Yeah, and does it? I was gonna say, does it push DRM? I don't know, because PC gaming.
They've done this for a long time, man. Like I remember back when Half-Life came out, I was much younger than I am now, but it was a huge deal that they launched Steam and like we're putting all the games on there. And I would be interested to go back and see if I can find some forum posts or articles or retrospectives on what people thought back then, if they're having the same conversation. It's all gonna burn down. It's all gonna be digital, and yet PC gamers have been happy for years on Steam.
Right. Yeah, exactly. We talked about like the multiple storefronts and stuff there. So it's just like, you hear about some people like hacking their Switch systems and stuff because there's the original Switch, the version 1 of the Switch is pretty, I guess it just takes a paperclip pretty much to do it. And so maybe that's a little bit of a problem. I still think it's a very, very, very small percentage of, Switch owners. And, you don't really hear too much about like hacked Xboxes or PlayStations and pirating Xbox Series games and PlayStation 5 games, right? I don't think that any of that changes. And honestly, like even if you could, like 99% of the consumer, 99% of the gamers out there, the customers out there aren't going to be bothered by that. So
right.
I don't know that it increases the piracy or anything. I mean, it just maybe reduces the number of games that are sold. But I don't know. I mean, I still think the same amount of money gets spent, right? It's just like, okay, I'm spending $70 on this game now, or $80 on this game now, instead of $50 or $40 on 2 games. Yeah. I don't know. You got any deep thoughts on that?
I don't know, man. Something that just came up in my mind though was the Game Pass discounts. Do you use that at all? Or will you? Would you? Like if PS Plus and Game Pass do that, where they have the, this game's on Game Pass, it's eventually going to leave. Do you want the, it's 20% off if you buy it now while you have Game Pass? That could be more prominent. Would you use it? I don't think I've used it yet.
Yeah, I was trying to decide if I remember if I've used it or not. I don't know if I have or not yet. I may have. But I could definitely see like, games dropping off, and if I've been playing it, like there's been games that have dropped off. I'm like, I wanted to play that. And I'm like, do I want to buy it? And I was like, if I didn't play it while it was on Game Pass, I'm not gonna buy it. Like, why? Like if it wasn't important enough for me to play while it was there. So, but like something like say Eastward, I haven't finished Eastward yet. If I found out tomorrow that Eastward was going to be dropping off Game Pass, I'm probably picking it up with the 20% discount. I mean, I definitely would hope that that would stay there, right? Like a 20% discount. It's nothing huge, but it's just like, it's nice enough to, it's like, okay, if the game's hopping off, like I know I can get it a little bit cheaper. And that's where I think like, we don't have to get into a deeper conversation, but, where Game Pass has helped sales maybe for some of these, third party games that have been on Game Pass, and it's typically going to, I still think like the indie devs and stuff like that, or, second run games, as far as like, they've had their first run of release and stuff, and then maybe they come on a Game Pass a year after release, and then it's like once they start hopping off, it's like, oh, okay. But
yeah, that makes sense. I think I've actually done the discount with movies. I haven't done it with games, but I think I bought the Ninja Turtles collection or something for the kids, and it's like, I don't know, some crazy low price as long as you have
Right.
Game Pass. They have a lot of movie deals like that. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a Game Pass discount, but I definitely bought the 4K the
Lord of the Rings.
best version of the
I knew it
the
was
Middle
coming
Earth
up.
saga, right?
Yeah.
Hobbit and Lord of the Rings movies. It was like I got all 6 movies, extended cuts, like the versions to get for
Yeah.
it was like $30 for all 6 movies or something like that. And then now,
that's
now
easy.
I have them on Movies Anywhere. Yeah, like no brainer.
Yeah, totally. Any closing thoughts on this all digital future, online only, anything else before we jump out of here?
Man, I don't think so. I think there's this future of the gaming industry could go a lot deeper, but I'm glad we dove into what we dove into, and I think we have more that we could dive into in the future.
Yeah, and in more episodes. And I think, man, what if my final closing thought is, I don't think the Switch 2 is going to be all digital, but do we see a subscription service from Nintendo?
We do have a subscription service from Nintendo.
Oh, come on, you know what I mean, like a Game Pass.
Wow, I don't think so. I would love give me Game Pass for Nintendo.
There's no way, right? Because their games sell full price all the time. There's no way.
Right. They never give discounts on their games and stuff. They value their IP way more than Sony does, and Sony's like, no way we're doing it. I mean, they just don't do the day one stuff. But it's like, man, even if Nintendo said, yeah, we'll throw some last gen games on there, and maybe a couple of years or a year or two after the next Kirby game comes out, we'll throw that on there. I mean, I'm still probably in on it.
I mean, I would 100% be in on it, but it just doesn't make sense to them. Like, that's a key move, right?
Yeah.
When you're on the top, you don't need to do that. Xbox is in third place. They got to do that. They got to do the day one, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting.
I buy way more Nintendo games than like if I didn't have Game Pass, I would have like 3. I still wouldn't have very many Xbox games. It's like my Xbox would just get used less. It would be a Starfield machine and Fallout 4, Cyberpunk, like occasionally the big Western RPGs that hit, and maybe some Halo or something. But I'm a Zelda fan, but it's like I've bought like all the Mario games. I got like Kirby games. I've got, I buy all the Nintendo games and I can't stop myself. It's a problem. Somebody help me.
Yeah, we can see it's all stacked up.
That's
like paperweights.
That's not even half of them.
It's like for your kid's booster seat, he sits on a stack of GameCube games.
Right. I have 3 Switches. Why do I have 3 Switches?
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, let us know what you think about the all digital future, online only check-ins, even single player games, that type of thing. Where are we headed in gaming, and are you okay with it? Let us know in the comments, or better yet, let us know on our Discord server or in our social medias. We're on all major social media platforms, and there's an invite to the Discord server in every single episode that we post, and we post those episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms, as well as YouTube, where you can see us live on video as well. Well, not live, but we're recorded. Do this live for Evan and I. No script, and we just kind of run through it. So hope you enjoyed the show. Give us a like. Give us a subscribe. Evan, any closing thoughts? Say goodbye to our viewers before we jump.
Yeah, thanks for joining. And for those that are on our Discord, thanks. I mean, we enjoy the engagement. It's a pretty small community right now, but man, it's we have a lot of good conversation there.
Yeah, 100%. I really value the conversations with our listeners on Discord so far, and hope more of you join us. So thanks, guys, and make sure you guys keep gaming and let us know what you're playing out there. We'd love to hear your thoughts.